What is up, guys? And today we're just going to talk about a balance adjustment patch coming to the game in about 2 weeks, and it's one of the craziest patches I've ever seen in the history of the game. And I just want to go over it because it's pretty wild what characters they're buffing and actually how they're buffing them. However, before we start with that, I just want to show you guys like the last coupon that is going on for the Epic 7 Origin Update countdown. It's the last day. All you guys have to do is go on the website link that I have down below, or you can do it in-game. For some devices, you type in Heir of the Covenant and you'll get 1 Mola Gora for free. It's on the stove page. You can click this link and you can access it, or what you can do is actually just use the link that I have in the description box and the comment section below. But yeah, let's get to the meat and bones of stuff. This is going to be the balance patch, and you can see, I'll scroll in a bit for you guys so you can see more easily. The characters they're buffing are pretty crazy here. You can see, just starting off, we have ML Ken, we have Fallen Cecilia getting buffed again, we have Spirit Eyes Celine, ML Vivian because of the skin, ML Sharoon, Fire Lidica, Fire Kairon, Seaside Bologna, Lethe Destina, Landy, and Watcher Shuri. And then we have Seaside Bologna's artifact, Landy's artifact, and Fairy Tale Tenebria's artifact all getting buffed. It's pretty hard to say whether these buffs will be super strong or like not that strong, because you kind of have to like test them in game, because there's no like test realms for Epic 7 that we are able to access. So let's just talk about them, and I'll briefly give my personal opinion. So first off, we have Martial Artist Ken. You're gonna see that he will always crit now, which is very good against like anti-crit characters, of course. And you'll also see that he has more chance to, or not more chance, but he penetrates defense even harder now with his S2. So you're gonna see, pretty good buffs, I'd say. Nothing too crazy, just more damage. Basically, it's just more damage around the board with more penetration and higher crit chance. Next, we have Fallen Cecilia. So Fallen Cecilia did get her buff reverted, and now she's getting a different buff. So first thing they're doing is putting Ignore Effect Resist on her S1. Nothing too crazy. A lot of characters have this, just a way to lock down a character. Her S2 passive is getting reworked. So basically, you still have that barrier that she has currently in the game, but now she also decreases additional damage and fixed damage received by allies by 50%, which is insane. Currently, there's a lot of additional damage and fixed damage running around, and this will cut that in half, making her extremely strong against those characters. This should work against artifacts as well, like Rocket Punch Gauntlet and 3F, so she will completely shut them down. Maybe they decided to go with this route because they can't rerun the Espa collab because of contractual issues, and people are still complaining to this day about not having Karina and also her artifact. So this is the way they're fixing it, by releasing a hard counter, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, very strong passive against fixed damage and extra damage. We also have our S3, the same thing, giving skill nullifier, except it's on a cooldown that is 1 turn shorter now at 4 turns, and will also dispel all buffs and also transfer all debuffs on Fallen Cecilia to the enemy, which is pretty strong. You're basically stripping all their buffs, and you're also transferring debuffs she might have, so you have to be very careful when trying to debuff her. It's going to make her very annoying to deal with. Next, we have ML Celine. They're basically changing it so instead of having a random chance to proc her enhanced S1 that does a ton of damage, if you just have a buff, including her possession buff, possessed buff I think it's called, you'll actually just activate it. So when you have any buff, it'll work, and her Nimble Sword will also give her an attack buff now for 1 turn, and it still will actually give you healing. You don't cleanse yourself anymore from 1 debuff and use it now. Instead, it'll be on your S3 that you dispel debuffs from everyone. Honestly, the debuff dispel on herself every time she S1 was pretty strong. So by removing it, I don't know, if this is a buff or nerf, to be honest, because honestly speaking, like, yes, this sounds really cool, right? That you always Nimble Sword when you have a buff, any buff, but you're gonna have this like possessed buff, which is undispellable like most of the fight anyways. That's like the prime reason you bring her. The only like good thing that came out of this, like for sure, is the full dispel from all allies. But losing that dispel from herself every attack, especially when you lock her down with like silences or like blinds and stuff like that, the way she can like just like cleanse it off an attack was very strong. And I think like the first part of the buff doesn't really matter that much. So very interesting. That is the direction they went with. Next, we have ML Vivian. They're making her more of like an aggressive player. You're going to see that she CR pushes now instead of getting increased speed. Also, when she has full focus, she S1s twice, which is very powerful. You'll also see that her S3 will actually decrease skill cooldowns of all allies by 1 turn, which is very strong as well. You'll also get focus from it, and you're also going to see that this insight ability will only apply to PvP now instead of having that only applies to heroes, so you can't really use it in PvE. Yeah, pretty interesting changes. I think this will make her a bit more aggressive in how you play her because of her S3 change, but I don't think this will make her super broken. She's still hard to build. Next, we have Dragon King Sharoon. First thing getting changed is her base speed. Constellation change will actually increase her base speed. Next thing you'll notice is that she gets increased CR now, which is up to 40% instead of 30 when an ally is inflicted with a debuff, which prevents movement like sleep and stuns. And also the cascade fixed damage that she gives to everyone is 4k damage now instead of 2500. Huge buff to the damage, but Fallen Cecilia does exist in the game now. So if you do see a Dragon King Sharoon, you kind of need ML Cecilia or else you're kind of screwed. Also, you're going to see that she can put cannot buff, so unbuffable, which is going to be very strong now, and also decrease CR by 20% of everyone on the enemy side instead of just increasing her own CR by 50%. Actually, this is a nerf, right? Yeah, so they removed the CR push of herself of 50% and just removed it straight up because it used to still like decrease everyone's CR by 20%. So they just pretty much nerfed her S3. I guess they changed it from a 50% CR boost to herself to unbuffable, which is a buff to be honest, but interesting that it's kind of like worded this way. Yeah, the biggest thing though is that at the top here, I kind of skipped over it. It used to be that at the start of Sharoon's turn, you would dispel, all those stuns and sleeps. It had to be her turn. Now it's at the end of anyone's turn. Whenever an ally is inflicted with that debuff, it'll dispel everything and give everyone Cascade. So currently, the reason why she's kind of awkward is because even if you pick her as a counter pick, if the character on your team that's stunned or slept takes their turn before Dragon King Sharoon, which doesn't happen too often because she is pushing herself up, right, with this like CR push, but it can happen. Sometimes you just like miss out on it completely, and you don't really counter the enemy team because of just unlucky RNG, speed RNG, or just like speed tuning, right? So they're fixing that to make it way more consistent. I think she'll be a very good counter pick, and if you don't have ML Cecilia to counter her when she is picked, you're pretty screwed. Next, we have Firelytica. It's complete rework. It's a lot of text. Basically, what she's going to do now is her S1 will apply bleeds, and you'll detonate the bleeds at the end. Also, you'll have a skill set now very similar to Faithless Lytica. So her S2 now is resource depletion, which is going to be all resources, fighting spirit focus, and also buff durations going down by 1 turn, so kind of like a dispel. And you also put bind for 2 turns. Holy, my voice just cracked. Bind for 2 turns, which is insane. And you just CR push for each target hit. So 25% for each target. If you hit 4 targets, you get 100% CR. You can ignore effect resist for 20 souls, which makes her very powerful. You're just applying bind to everyone and decreasing buff durations, which is extremely strong in itself. And then on top of that, if you actually land this on 4 enemies, you can take another turn. You'll actually be able to activate your S3. And your S3 is a 2-turn defense break. Also, will CR push back by 100%, so puts them to 0% on the CR bar, essentially. You also give skill nullifier to everyone on your team, and when the target is inflicted with binds, which you can pretty much guarantee if you have souls, because you just S2, yeah, you'll be able to ignore effect resist. You can pretty much cripple the enemy team, and then completely cripple one of the enemies and set them up to get one shot. So Firelytica is going to be extremely strong as an opener, and her base speed is very high, so I'm very scared. And she also has a lot of these exclusive equipments being changed. You can decrease buff durations by an additional 1 turn, which is probably the best one. You can decrease buff durations by 2 turns, or you can even restrict with the S2, which is also very broken. I think Firelytica is going to be one of the best characters in the game to open with if you can actually go first with her, so definitely worth going for. Kayron's damage is just going up all around. He also is getting lifesteal on his S3 nuke, which is very good, and he gets 2 turns of evasion instead of 1 when his immortality procs. Also, imprints being changed from attack percent to crit chance, so it'll make him a lot easier to build. I don't think it'll change much, to be honest. Kayron's problem wasn't that he wasn't doing enough damage. Definitely, like, the lifesteal doesn't really matter at all, if like anything. And increased turn of evasion, sure, but like he's gonna be low and like very squishy most of the time, so I don't think it'll matter. Next, we have Seaside Bologna being buffed as well. So instead of transferring damage, he basically just gets damage reduction, and it's basically going to be for every surviving ally, you decrease damage suffered by 10%. So if you have 3 allies alive, so 4 people on a team, Seaside Bologna plus 3. If all your teammates are alive, you're taking 30% less damage, which is the same as before, but you don't redirect it anymore. Also, you're going to see that her S3 got changed. Instead of having a critical hit do more damage, it will now just dispel all buffs, and the base damage on it is going up. So pretty much a buff, you just build her on full tank and attack. Lethe being changed to get CR now when she actually kills an enemy, I think that's what it is, right? And also you're going to see that this will scale the healing, and the damage dealt will scale with your max health as per usual, but now the damage is just going up, which is pretty good. Now going down to the next buffs here, we have Destina. She's getting her healing to get increased here. She's also having that Spirit's Blessing buff that she has to actually last for 3 turns instead of just 2, which is good. Usually people would just wait this out and then focus her down, and it was very short because it was only 2 turns. So increasing it to 3 turns will make her a lot more annoying and sticky on the field. And also you're going to see that her S3 is also going to revive all allies to 30% instead of 20%. 20% very low, 30% honestly is still very low. Not really that much of a difference, but maybe it'll allow some characters to save or like live with like 1-2% health and make a huge difference, but still, you know, very susceptible to dying right after the res. Next up, we have Landy buffs. So kind of funny that we have Kayron, Seaside Bologna, and Landy all getting buffed. They changed like the RTA season to allow RGB characters to shine a bit more without the 30% damage increase and damage reduction against the weaker element characters. So I think they're trying to bring back these 3 like carries that were meta a long time ago. And with Landy's case, she's getting damage increase on her S1. Her S1 already hits very hard, so this is pretty interesting, especially because her attack scales very quickly with her passive. And you'll also see her passives getting modified to actually give her stealth now for 1 turn. So pretty strong, because, you know, now you don't need Guiding Light on her, but you're not getting that Guiding Light after every turn, so maybe you still want to run it on her, and then this passive buff is pretty useless. Yeah, just very interesting. I don't know why they just, you know, gives her stealth for 1 turn. I think they should have just gave her the Guiding Light passive and allowed her to run another artifact, and that definitely would have made her very strong and good in the meta. Next we have Watcher Shuri. Basically his S3 is just going to be fully penetrating, all defense now instead of 80%, pretty good buff. And now, actually this was already in the game, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the Awakening actually, so it was already in the game. What's being changed basically is that he gets 50% increased hit chance when using the skill. Very good change. I think him having this will make him very good. So now they're also going to change it as well. For the exclusive equipments, he's getting another 50% hit chance increase on his S3. I think this is right, so he gets 100% hit chance increase. Is that correct? I have no idea what this means, but if that's the case, cool. He can be used against evasion. Gonna be good against Afternoon Soak Flan now for sure. He's just gonna one-shot it, right? Afternoon Soak Flan, 100% evasion. Now you just pick Watcher Shuri, and with 100% hit chance, you just one-shot her. So finally a good counter to her. That is very simple. Required 1 buff to an ML 4-star, 1 change on 1 skill, and now he's just going to be the hardest counter to Afternoon Soak Flan defenses, and you're just going to have to build him. And Afternoon Soak Flan will definitely fall out of the defense meta, 100% for sure. Probably can still play her in World Arena, but you have to be careful now. Now we have the artifact changes. Reingar's Special Drink, damage is going up. This will get cut down, obviously, by Fallen Cecilia buffs, but Seaside Bologna, if she becomes meta, she'll do even more damage, and because you're actually building her on full attack now, this additional damage increase is going to be higher than you expect. Before, people kind of built like crit chance and crit damage to, you know, kind of make her damage a little bit more, what do I say, kind of more like amplified, but now you don't have to worry about that at all. You just go full attack and full bulk, and this drink is going to hit super hard. Next we have Landy's artifact. You're going to see that higher chance for greater attack buff and also at the end of the turn has a chance to grant stealth. So wow, I didn't actually see this part. So I was saying Landy should have just got Guiding Light. She actually has it now. Just run it on her own artifact, and then she has Guiding Light pretty much built in, but better because it's a higher chance, right? Guiding Light never went to 100%. It was like 80 or something, 70 or something. This one goes to 100, which is insane. And now you have a chance to get greater attack. So it's going to make her super strong against buff teams. Wow, I'm very excited for this actually, because I have so many Wall of Orders, and this artifact used to be like dog water. Now it's actually very, very good. Not only just for Landy, but for a lot of Rangers that want kind of like this Guiding Light passive, right? Yeah, very excited. This is going to be very interesting how the meta shakes up, because now I could see like Landy and Seaside Bologna being very good. Next we have Fairy Tale Tenebria's artifact being changed a bit. Just a higher chance to activate when you have it at higher ranks, and you're going to see that it does a lot more fixed damage, going up to 2,000, so pretty interesting. But yeah, these are the patch notes. You know, there's a lot, and there's kind of like random buffs, right? I think the only ones that were warranted were like, where is it? Watcher Shuri, like as a counter to Afternoon Soak Plan, and I guess like Destina. But everything else is kind of like they just did it for fun, right? And I kind of like this. They're just shaking up the meta. I think them balancing the game around problems just over and over and over, it just leads to such like a toxic cycle. I think them just like kind of doing these random buffs and just, you know, praying that, you know, whatever happens is a lot more fun to the game, right? It's a lot less predictable, right? Than just like having, you know, counters to meta characters over and over every single cycle. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these patch notes. I think they're pretty interesting. Sure, they might be like super bad for the game, but I'd rather have the game in a state where you're just like buffing randomly, just characters that aren't really used that much, and just, you know, seeing how it goes, rather than having them always built to be a counter to certain characters. But thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.